Hello, welcome back to Oracle DBA tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to discuss about different type of logs, and then we will focus on this tutorial about DML logs. So basically, before we want to discuss about log, the sole purpose of the goal of logging mechanism is something like this, that it will control concurrent access to a shared resource. So basically logs are used to control concurrent access to shared resource and to prevent destructive interactions between users. Okay, so we need logs because as we discussed in our previous kind of videos that we have a shared resource, and in shared resource if we do not log it, then we might have a problem of lost update, and we might have something like we may not able to get a consistent result. And one of the main focus of database is to give you consistent result. At the same time, multiple concurrent users needs to access the resource. And then how to achieve that? In order to achieve, we need some sort of logging mechanism. And logs are the way, essentially at the you know at the resources which basically help you in uh, making yourself that you can access concurrently without any destructive interference interaction between the users. Okay, and then so and so that is the sole purpose of log, and all logs in Oracle are automatically acquired. Okay, so all logs are automatically acquired. So so what is the sense that you do not have to log the table. Like whenever, say, basically if you want to update a row, right? So in that case you do not have to log them automatically. What you can do, Oracle will take care of, based on your SQL statement, it will determine whether to log or not, and then it will basically do that. So don't never log yourself. That's Oracle never recommends you to log manually, even though there is a SQL statement to log it manually. But 99% cases, let Oracle choose how to log it. Okay, so with this, let's try to see understand what are different types of log. Okay, so type of logs. There are three different type of logs, and the first one is DML log, and DML logs are acquired when you run some DML statements like select for update, insert, delete, update, and so on. And the DML logs are there to guarantee data integrity. So these are there to ensure data integrity. And second one is that when one transaction is trying to run some DML statement, another session would not drop that table, right? That means ensure data definition to be in track while a transaction is active on that table or on that object. Okay, so this is why the goal of DML log is to take care of these two things. Okay, and the other type of log is called DDL log. So as you know, like whenever you keep a DDL statement, these logs will be acquired, and we are going to discuss details in our next video. And also the last type of log is called internal log or latches. Again, these two we are going to deal in separate video. Right now we are going to focus on DML lock. And as we know, the DML lock is going to ensure data integrity and also ensure data definition. All right. So DML locks can be acquired at two levels. The first one is at row level, and the second one is at table level. That means, say, let's say I'm running a update. Okay, I'm running say update emp set sal is equal to, say, I give 1000, where employee number is equal to, let's say, 1001 or 100. Okay, so that means whenever I'm running this statement, okay, so there will be it, because it's a DML statement, so there will be DML lock is going to be there, and then the DML lock will be at two levels. One at the row level. That means I'll go and then find out where this where is the block where this salary row employee number 100 exists. So let's say employee number 100 exists somewhere here. Okay, in that case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a row level lock. Means I'm going to, let's say, these are the, like, this is the row, and then say this is the other row, and this is the other row, and so on. So row 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say assume that only 5 rows are there in this data block, and then whenever we are giving this kind of statement, what we are going to do, we are going to lock this row, and we'll lock this row using row level lock. This in short, this is called TX locks, and in short, this is called TM locks. Okay, so we are going to put a TX lock on the row. All right, so that means once we put a TX lock, other people will not able to access that one. They can read, but they cannot write. Okay, so that is what essentially it guarantee me that, whatever one transaction is writing, the other transaction cannot come and then rewrite or overwrite on top of that until and unless the first transaction are committed or rolled back. Okay, so that is what meant by a row level lock. However, whenever this transaction is active, and then somebody else can come and then do drop emp, that would not be allowed, because we would have a lock on the table. Okay, so we would have lock on the table, and that lock will not allow the other sessions to drop the table. Okay, so this is, so that table level locks is going to do that. So again, row level locks are acquired automatically. So automatically, Oracle will assign a row lock to this row whenever you give this updates, when you submit this update statement, and there's no limit on how many locks it can acquire. So let's say, for example, whenever this transaction, this update statement may be a part of a transaction, and then after this update in a PL/SQL for loop, I'm going to update all other rows. So in that case, there will be a TX lock or row level locks for each of the row of the employee table. Okay, so there is no limit on number of locks. And the last one is to is to understand is that uh, row level lock is the finest level of granularity. That means, like, now let's understand, this is the row, right? So this is a row, and then in this row, this is employee number row, and as you know, employee row might have employee number, salary, bonus, manager, and a lot of other things. And what we are considering here, we are updating the salary, right? So we are updating this part. To update this part, we need to acquire the lock on the complete row. Okay, so that is why it is called the lowest granularity of locking. You might ask question, then why just I cannot lock only this part? No, that is not possible, because if you know this whole row, you know this whole row determines the employee number 100. Okay, so therefore what Oracle does, Oracle completely lock the row. Okay, so that means this is the finest granularity level. Okay, so this is all about TX lock. So we put a lock here, and then let's discuss about the table level lock. Again, table level locks comes in 5 different types, and those types are determined on the following, like one is called row share, or this is popularly called RS locks, and another thing is called row exclusive, or this is called RX lock, and number 3 is called shared, or simply S, and the remaining called SRX, or called share row exclusive lock, and the last one is exclusive lock. Okay, so that means what I'm saying is that the table locks is divided into 5 different types. Depending on types of statement, we are going to have different types of locks. So in the next slide, we are going to discuss about more detail about, or we are going to concentrate only to this part. Okay, so only to concentrate about the table level locks. So the big picture is like this: DML locks, DDL locks, internal locks. And what we are discussing is that DML locks are of 2 types at 2 levels. One is at row level, which we have already discussed here, and DML locks, and then DML locks will have a table level locks, which we are discussing right now, that there are so many things. So now what I'm going to do, so I'm going to concentrate on table level locks, or this is called TM. So as you know, there are 5 different types. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a tabular representation so that it will be easier for me to explain a couple of things. So let's say this, draw a table, and then so what we have here, we have 5 different, one, two, okay, so we have 5 different types of block, and then just let's write those things. So we have row share, so it's a row share, and then we have row exclusive, then we have share, then we have share row exclusive lock, and then X exclusive lock. Okay, so we are going to understand the characteristics of all this type of block on, we're going to discuss about the characteristics of all this lock. Okay, so the first characteristics about when this is going to be done, right? So any transaction, okay, so any transaction holding this lock has probably locked a row in table, and then it's time to intend to update, but it's not updated yet. Okay, so this kind of lock will come into picture whenever whenever a transaction is going to basically update couple of row update a row, and then intending to commit. Okay, so basically, so that is what it says, transaction holding. So so transaction has locked, the transaction has locked rows in table, so locked rows in table for update. Okay, so what kind of statement that is going to give this kind of lock? So if somebody is going to write something called select star from EMP for update. Okay, so if you want to write, if you want to give this kind of statement, it's going to hold a RS lock on table EMP. Okay, so if this thing happens, then other transactions, okay, so other transactions are allowed to insert, update, delete, from the table, not a problem. Like say for example, this is the block we are doing. So let's say we are doing select star from EMP where employee number is equal to 100 for update. So in that case, we will going to have a row lock, RX lock on this thing, and then we are going to have a RS lock on this table. So if you have this RS lock on this table, other sessions from other transaction can query. Okay, so other session can query and also update or delete other rows except this row, because this row is holding RX lock is on top of that, right? So therefore this row is not eligible for any further update, but other rows can be updatable. So can query, update, insert, and so on. And what other transaction cannot do, that other transactions are prohibited to lock table in this exclusive mode. Okay, so other transactions are prohibited to lock in X mode. Okay, so these are the four characteristics on which a RS lock will be acquired. Okay, so this is when, and this is allowed, and this is not allowed. Okay, so and then this is a short definition of that lock. Okay, so essentially under these four criteria we are going to evaluate all other locks, and it's very theoretical. And what I'm going to planning to do is I'm going to show you a demo using some sort of SQL in couple of your problem solving videos. But in concept videos it will be very like next 5 minutes maybe the most theoretical thing that you have ever learned. Okay, and then your RX lock, okay, indicates that a transaction which is holding this RX lock has already updated couple of rows. Okay, so here is the intention to update, but here the transaction has updated row. So whenever the transaction has updated row, we are going to put a RX lock. Okay, sorry, this is called TX lock. Okay, the transaction row lock was TX, not RX. Okay, so we are going to hold a RX lock on this on this table, and then all when this kind of things will occur, when I'm doing, let's say I'm doing update EMP set sal is equal to 500. So if I do, then what I'm going to have in my data block, I'm going to lock this table using TX lock, because using this row level lock will come first, and after that on table level I'm going to put a RX lock. Okay, and then also if you want to do insert into update and delete, all these things will be putting the table into the RX mode. So in this case, other transactions are allowed to query, update, delete on the table. Okay, the same thing whatever you're this thing. So allowed to other transaction allowed to query, update, delete. So what they are not allowed, other transactions are not allowed to acquire any other locks manually. No manual locking. So manual locking means you can do a statement like lock EMP in row exclusive mode. So this statement will take the employee table manually to a row exclusive mode of locking. So that means what I'm saying, other transact if whenever we are acquiring an RX, whenever transaction 1 is acquiring RX lock, other transactions should not acquire any other manual locks. And shared locks are a little more restrictive than the RS and RX lock. Even though it says that this is a shared, but it's more restrictive than RS and RX locks. And then when it's going to be locked, whenever somebody going to give a statement like lock EMP in shared mode. Okay, so whenever one transaction is going to give this kind of statement saying lock EMP in shared mode, then the table will go to table will be locked in the share mode. So here the other transactions can query, no problem in querying, query, update, and delete and all these things. And what other transactions cannot do, they cannot hold any other lock, something called SRX lock, or yeah, so they cannot hold any SRX lock. And then coming to share exclusive lock, only one transaction can hold this lock. So remember, like if in this RX lock and S and RS lock, that can be example. So transaction T1 is doing update to this row. So therefore, the transaction T1 is holding TX lock on this thing and a RX lock on this table. Another transaction T2 is updating another row here. In that case, T2 is going to hold a TX lock and as well as TX lock on this row and a RX lock on this table. Okay, so that is what is possible. So but in case of SRX lock, only one transaction can hold this lock on the table. No other transactions are allowed to do anything. Okay, and then in this case, so when this is going to happen, whenever we basically lock EMP in SRX mode. Okay, so this SQL statement is going to lock it in SRX mode. And then what things are allowed here? Other transaction can only query or do a select for update. Select for update. No update, no delete, no insert is allowed for other transactions. Okay, and also so no other no update, delete allowed, or insert also allowed. And then if we are holding, if we are already holding an SRX lock, we cannot hold an RX lock anymore. The last one is exclusive, and this is the most restrictive. And if you see, like as you go here, right, so this was the least restrictive, and then as you go to the towards right, you are getting most restrictive locks, and this is the most restrictive block. And how do you lock them? When this lock is going to occur, whenever you do lock EMP in X mode. Okay, so that is when this lock is going to occur. And then if this lock is there, then only then other transactions can only query and then does not allow, other transactions are not allowed to any DML statement here. Any DML statement are not allowed. Okay, so other transactions cannot do any DML statement. Okay, so this is all about your different types of table lock, and in this topic we completely discussed all these DML locks. Okay, as I told you, we are going to do some kind of hands-on exercise to show you hands-on examples to show you how these locks are actually in place whenever you are doing some update or delete or whatever.